all, it's Emily Rand with ESPN Esports. I am joined by G2 coach Grabbz. Grabbz, it is Worlds time, which means it's time for me to check in on how much your team is driving you crazy. How is it going after that game?
Well, I think after 3 years, at some point, I should just roll with it, right? Getting used to it. Compared to yesterday, I'm pretty happy, though, that we just had a dirty game, but very controlled. I think we never actually were in danger of losing. So I take this over the game yesterday for sure.
So there's less of the, what was it? The G2 Twitter posted that meme of you just aging like 50 years within a single match. There's less of that.
Yesterday was way worse. I think I had like 300 texts in the meantime, and I thought we end, and then we entered, and then they end, and they entered, and we win. I guess I take those, but not today was a good day.
Compared to, I talked to Mickey about this yesterday, but compared to some of the more one-sided kind of stomps we've seen from other groups, your group seems to be, even the TL Machi game was kind of like a slow rolling snowball that took a while to finish. What do you think it is about your group that has had either really back and forth games or slightly slower paced games?
I just think that us and Suning are really good, and the other two teams are very one-dimensional, and even in the one style are not aggressive enough to push it through. So I think that's why I expect to see Suning and us stomping the other two teams. That is, if we don't get to cocky in G2 fashion, so I'm really worried about tomorrow. But I just think there's a bit of a gap in team strength. We still respect them, especially Machi, because they actually are pretty good at punishing on their own tempo, which I think, for example, Wonder one time didn't respect and we die, and they could have done a bit more. Mm-hmm. But I think it's just easier to target them out and ban, so like orange ban, set ban. When I don't have the tools to actually force the struggle a bit. Same for TL, I think they just don't have a good mid-jungle to play at Worlds. Impact Shampoo, sure, he has a lot of tanks, but they're not necessarily what you're playing right now. If you see like a Jax, a Camille, these kind of champs, I just think that Machi and Liquid have too many limiting factors to actually be a threat.
Okay. Looking at like the entirety of Worlds and how G2 got here, obviously you guys had a shakier season than last year, which, to be fair, it was kind of hard to top how, I would say, how dominant your year was last year. But how did you guys approach going? Was your approach any different going into Worlds this year? And how did you prepare for this tournament?
So we were very adamant that over spring and summer, we did not put the most effort in practice and just how we approached the games, which then clearly showed on stage. We still felt very confident, though, for the most part. Besides the 1-2 weeks where suddenly playoffs itself was in danger, then suddenly there was a bit worry. But I think it has shown that we can, if you want to, adapt really fast. So therefore, we had more strength, let's say, in boot camp here for Worlds. That being said, though, it was really hard to actually have more effort in because we got stomped by the Asian teams a lot. So we went to a part where we did not really know what League of Legends is anymore and what we should pick because we lose with everything. But the last few days have been better, and especially yesterday it showed that actually I think we kind of adapted to what they do because they might have shifted even more to farming junglers with set nerf, for example. So suddenly the style we played the entire year doesn't work that well anymore. So it just took time.
Yeah, I mean, G2 is known for being a really flexible team. You've said that's one of their strengths. I think it's one of your team's strengths, obviously. Looking at the meta game as a whole, there were a lot of rumors that we were going to see a shift in bot lane to maybe some of the champions that Perkz is more comfortable with regarding traditional AD carries. But that has not happened. Have you been at all surprised at how the meta has evolved at Worlds thus far?
Not so far, but that's also just because no team wants to be experimental in best of ones, right? Like every team just plays meta right now. If you're a better team, you should win. So I expect a lot more spice going into quarterfinals and further. We have some ideas of what's playable, but we decided, since we're losing every game, to limit our champ pools and just try to really look what can work. And I think so far did a good job. So now that we won 2 games and probably tomorrow as well, we have more freedom of actually experimenting a bit. Maybe there's some majors playable bot lane, maybe Yasuo's playable bot lane. But so far Perkz does a good job on Azul and Ashe as well. It's not like we need to cheese there, right? I just think that players are stepping up, like Mickey, for example, is having a great role so far, even though people were like writing him off a bit in our summer split. Wonder is always a beast, and I just hope he can support Jankos a bit better, because even though as much as I like to flame him, jungle is a team game right now. And I think Asian teams are just better at facilitating that, while we make mistakes and then Jankos has to be punished for. So I think that's the biggest thing we have to improve on if we aim to actually win Worlds.
And then returning to what you said before about how hard it is to get back into practice, because I've actually heard this from LPL teams too, because the LPL season is just so massively long, and they also play best of 3. So there is a lot more room for experimentation, or you will have teams like, more famously in the past, RNG would sit Uzi because of his injuries, so that he would be able to be in better form, like when it mattered towards the end of the season. How difficult is it to get back into like more of a hyper competitive mindset, especially when, in your words, your team kind of plays a little fast and loose anyway, and sometimes it's hard to rein them back in?
I think the loss against Fnatic helped a lot in playoffs. The same way like in spring against Mad Lions, to suddenly see, okay, sure, we're confident we can win, but we need to step it up because we're not clearly the best team. So that helped a lot. I think what made matters worse was the quarantine. And I think in hindsight, I would have booked differently teams if I knew that, like, it's really hard to gain confidence if you lose every game, but you can't even talk to each other because you're in different rooms. Like, that's very different, right? So I think we lost some practice time there. We could have used more efficiently, but now they're back together. Also, losing doesn't hurt us much because we can actually talk about what went wrong and what we want to improve on. So basically, right now we're just in the mode to actually want to win Worlds, and we see we can, even though Dam on top and JDG, also DRX look really good in scrims. It kind of lights the fire under our butts a bit to see, okay, this is where we need to get if you actually want to win Worlds. So it makes it easier to actually put in the effort if you feel threatened, right?
How did your team handle quarantine?
Sorry?
How did your team handle quarantine? Like, how did they take it? You said, like, you're not the first team I've heard to have difficulties with communication during that.
Yeah, we tried to like schedule movie nights together after scrims, and we played a lot of Among Us. So now we're all really good at lying and being a bit of psychopaths. But it was really fun. We played with other teams as well, and we just tried to take the focus away from League and just enjoy the time a bit more, because of course we all struggled being alone. Even me, like I'm a bit of a loner sometimes as well, right? But not having the option of leaving the room is very different than what just being at home is. So it was just mentally straining, but every team went through it besides the Chinese one, so we don't want to complain too much. It just, as I said before, right? I would have handled scrims a bit differently, I think, if I knew how hard it was. But right now we can't complain anymore. We're out of there, and now it's about looking forward and making the best of our time.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. All the best to G2 going forward. It's always great to talk to you guys.
Thank you so much.